Hello, and welcome to Soothing Pod's Sleep Stories. I am Chris, and tonight we will journey together through the gentle light of Hyperion, the titan of wisdom, and the quiet realm of his brother, Hypnos, god of sleep. In their timeless dance of light and rest, we will find calm and balance. As day turns softly into night, and dreams carry the promise of dawn, let the warmth of ancient light guide you into peaceful slumber. Before we begin our journey tonight, let's take time to relax and let go of the stresses of the day. Allow your body to sink into the surface beneath you. Here and now, there are no obligations, no to-do lists. By simply lying in bed with your eyes closed, you are already giving your body nourishing rest. Close your eyes and take a slow, unhurried breath in. Let the air fill your lungs gently, as though it has traveled across vast, quiet seas just to reach you. Exhale just as slowly, allowing any weight from the day to drift away. Now, imagine yourself standing at the edge of a great, still ocean. The water stretches endlessly before you, dark and calm, beneath a sky that is not yet day, not yet night. A world held in the pause between moments. The air is cool, carrying the faint scent of salt and the whisper of far-off tides. In the distance, the horizon glows faintly, as though someone has painted the edge of the world with liquid gold. It grows warmer, brighter, but never harsh. The first threads of sunlight spill gently across the water, gliding toward you like slow-moving rivers of light. As you breathe in, feel that light touch your skin. Warm, soft, and calming. It moves into your chest, into your heart, and further still into the quiet places of your mind. Each exhale releases tension, leaving only stillness and warmth behind. The sun has not yet risen, but its promise fills the air. You are safe here. You are at the threshold of a story that began before the world had a name. And now, as the golden glow deepens, we step into an age long past, when light was young and the Titans still walked beneath the sky. Before the earth had mountains, before rivers traced their silver paths through the land, before even the first seed stirred in the soil, there was darkness. It was not an empty darkness, but a still, infinite one. Quiet expanse where the breath of the cosmos moved slowly, and time had no measure. From this quiet came the first stirring of light. It began as the faintest shimmer, like a ripple over unseen water, spreading across the void. From that ripple rose a presence, vast, ageless, and serene. This was Hyperion, son of Gaia, the earth, and Uranus, the sky. He was born not with a cry, but with the silent radiance of a star emerging from shadow. Light was his essence, not a harsh blaze, but a living warmth that could chase away the deepest night without burning it away. Where he walked, the darkness softened, turning to gentle gold. In his eyes lay the wisdom of the first horizon, and in his hands the shaping power of the day. He was not alone in these early ages. The world was young and crowded with beings of great power. His brothers and sisters, the other Titans, each a force of nature and eternity. But even among them, Hyperion was different. He was not the storm or the flame, not the crushing wave or the deep earth. He was illumination, the clarity that revealed the world as it was, the mind that pondered what it might become. The first dawn rose because of him. He lifted the light from its hiding place beyond the veil of night and sent it spilling over the new-born earth. Mountains gleamed, oceans turned to molten silver, and valleys that had slept in shadow awoke to color. It was not simply brightness he gave, but understanding, for light and wisdom are never far apart. In those early days, Hyperion would stand upon the edge of the sky, looking down at the unformed lands and wondering what they might hold. The days stretched long, unmeasured by clocks, each one carrying the slow rhythm of creation itself. And in the golden hush of those first mornings, it seemed the world was breathing for the very first time. Far to the east, beyond the lands where mortals would one day walk, lay a place where the light was born each morning. It was here that Hyperion made his home, a palace unlike any other, not built of stone or timber, but formed from the very substance of dawn. Its walls shimmered like crystal infused with sunlight, glowing softly even in the deepest night. The air within carried a gentle warmth, the kind that eases tired limbs and clears a restless mind. Long corridors stretched outward like rays of light, leading to open terraces where one could watch the first spark of morning ignite upon the horizon. Beneath the palace floors, streams of liquid gold moved in slow, winding channels. These were the veins of the day itself, carrying warmth and clarity into the waiting world. When Hyperion walked beside them, the water seemed to hum faintly, as though the light recognized its master. Every chamber of this domain reflected his nature. In one, great shelves carved from crystal held scrolls of ageless knowledge, wisdom gathered not from words alone, but from observing the cycles of the world since its first breath. In another, pools of still, luminous water mirrored the sky perfectly, so that standing at their edge felt like gazing into eternity. From this eastern throne, Hyperion watched over the sun's daily journey. Each morning, he opened the gates of light, letting the golden tide spill across the heavens. He tended to its path with patience, never hurrying, never allowing the day to break too quickly. For he knew that both light and learning must unfold gently, or they risked being lost before they could take root. At times, the wind would carry the distant voices of other titans, deep, resonant echoes across the young world. Yet, his palace remained a sanctuary, untouched by the storms of his kin. Here, in the quiet heart of the East, Hyperion's work was constant but unhurried, like the steady rhythm of breathing. The world outside grew and changed with each passing dawn, but within these radiant halls, the peace of the first light endured. From the union of Hyperion and Thea, the Titaness whose radiance matched his own, came 3 children who would carry his light into every corner of the world. Each was born beneath a sky filled with gold, silver, and rose, and each carried a fragment of his wisdom within their souls. The first was Helios, the sun. From the moment his eyes opened, they gleamed with the brightness of 1,000 mornings. Even as a child, his presence brought warmth to all who stood near. And wherever he looked, shadows dissolved. Hyperion taught him the paths of the sky, the careful arc the sun must take to bring life without scorching it away. He spoke to him of patience, of how even the strongest light must bow to night so that the world might rest. The second was Selene, the moon. Her light was gentler, touched with silver, her gaze always soft and thoughtful. Hyperion taught her not to shine with the same force as her brother, but to guide with quiet clarity, illuminating the night without breaking its calm. From her father, she learned the wisdom of reflection, how the moonlight draws its glow from the sun, and how knowledge often comes from listening as much as speaking. The third was Eos, the dawn. She was laughter and movement, the first blush of colour in the morning sky. She ran through the halls of Hyperion's palace with the swiftness of a breeze, her hair trailing streaks of rose and gold. From her father, she learned the art of beginnings, how to usher in the day with gentleness, allowing the light to grow rather than rush forth all at once. Together, they formed a perfect cycle. Helios to guide the day, Selene to watch over the night, and Eos to weave them together. Hyperion, ever the patient teacher, saw in them the balance of all things, brightness and rest, silence and song, the endless turning from shadow into light. And so, his children took their places in the sky, each carrying a piece of their father's gift, ensuring that even when Hyperion began his journey to the great hall where the Titans gathered, a place older than the mountains, carved from the bones of the earth itself, the path wound across vast, untouched lands. He passed valleys, where the grass swayed like an emerald sea, their tips brushed with the first gold of morning. The wind carried scents of salt from far-off shores, and the faint perfume of flowers that bloomed only in the earliest light. Above him, the sky stretched clear and endless, a pale canvas waiting for the day's colors to unfold. The Hall of Titans rose at the heart of a wide plain. Its pillars were as tall as forests, their surfaces veined with silver that shimmered faintly even in shadow. The roof arched high, open at the center, so the sky could pour its light directly into their council. No torch ever burned there. The light of the sun, the moon, and the stars was all that was needed. Inside, the voices of his kin rumbled like distant thunder. There was Oceanus, whose deep eyes seemed to hold the memory of every wave. There was Themis, calm and unshakable, her presence like the weight of truth itself. Creus stood tall beside them, his gaze fixed on the far horizon, always measuring the turning of the heavens. When Hyperion entered, the murmur of voices softened. He walked to the circle's center, where the sunlight pooled on the marble floor. The council that day was not one of war or strife, but of balance, how to guide the growing world so that chaos would not overtake it. He spoke slowly, his words measured like the passing hours. He spoke of patience, of allowing rivers to carve their own paths, of giving mountains time to form and skies time to clear after storms. He reminded them that wisdom was not in forcing change, but in knowing when to let it come of its own accord. The others listened, and in their silence was a kind of agreement that needed no declaration. For though the Titans were beings of immense power, there were moments, rare and precious, when they understood the value of restraint. When the council ended, Hyperion stepped outside once more. The day had deepened, the sun now high and steady. In the distance, he could see the shimmer of the ocean and the long sweep of shadow from the mountains beyond. The world continued, slow and unhurried, just as it was meant to. There were places in the world where the land simply ended, not with cliffs or walls of stone, but with a slow fading into something greater, where the earth's breath met the skies, and the two mingled until they could no longer be told apart. It was to such a place that Hyperion often came when the weight of his thoughts grew heavy. The path to the horizon was long and quiet, winding over soft hills brushed with silver grass. Each step brought him closer to the edge of the known, where the colors of the world seemed to soften, as though the air itself wished to lull the eyes. When he reached the boundary, he would stand where the ocean met the sky. Here, the sea was a mirror, so still that clouds above appeared to float in its depths. The line between water and air was only a whisper, a suggestion, a gentle meeting of blues and golds. The horizon spoke in its own language. It murmured with the sigh of the tide, the slow drift of wind, the faint creak of the world turning beneath the heavens. If one stood long enough, the sounds began to weave together until there were no longer separate voices, but a single, endless breath. Hyperion would listen for hours, his gaze resting on that fragile place where light touched water. Sometimes he thought he could feel the heartbeat of the earth itself in those moments. Not the pounding rush of a storm, the steady, patient pulse that had always been there. The horizon reminded him that nothing in creation was truly fixed. What was day would become night, and what was night would return to day again. Shadows would lengthen, then retreat. Waves would rise, then fall, only to rise again. He thought of mortals, though they were still yet to come in the fullness of their number. One day, they too would stand at horizons, seeking meaning in the meeting of earth and sky. They would not know his name, but they would feel his presence in the golden warmth on their faces, and in the clarity that came when the world seemed to pause. A soft wind stirred then, carrying with it the faintest scent of something unfamiliar, a fragrance that did not belong to the sea, or the grass, or the air. It was a scent of dreams, cool and weightless, like the breath of a sleeping world. Hyperion knew this sign. The hour was nearing when light and slumber would meet. And in that meeting, he would see a figure he has not stood beside in many long ages. The air grew cooler as Hyperion stepped away from the sea's edge. Shadows stretched long across the land, not the deep black of night, the gentle dimming that comes when the day sighs into evening. The golden brilliance that followed him softened, melting into a warm amber glow, as if even light itself were preparing to rest. In the hush of that hour, a figure emerged from the quiet. He moved with the silence of a drifting cloud, his robes the color of deep twilight. Poppies bloomed in his wake, their petals swaying as though stirred by some unseen tide. "Brother," Hyperion said, and the word carried a rare warmth, for this was Hypnos, twin born of the same parents, yet shaped by a wholly different element of existence. Where Hyperion's gift was illumination, Hypnos's was stillness. He ruled not the hours of wakefulness, but the vast, uncharted realm of dreams. They met in the space between sunset and nightfall, where neither fully held sway. Above them, the sky was a slow river of fading gold and rising blue. "It has been long," Hypnos murmured, his voice no louder than the breath of the wind. "Yet you walk the horizon as you once did, carrying the day to its close." "And you," Hyperion replied, "gather the minds of all who sleep, weaving them into places unseen." Together, they walked toward a small glade at the foot of a hill, where a stream moved lazily through grass heavy with evening dew. Here, Hypnos kept his garden. Rows of poppies, night-blooming jasmine, and pale, silver-edged leaves that trembled at the touch of starlight. The air was rich with the scent of rest, a perfume that softened every breath. They spoke little. In their bond, words were unnecessary. Where Hyperion's light met Hypnos' shadows, there was no clash, only balance. The day yielded to the night, not in defeat, but in quiet agreement, as one hand passes a torch to another. When the first stars began to appear, Hypnos lifted a small bloom from his garden and placed it in Hyperion's palm. "A reminder," he said, "that wisdom lives as much in silence as it does in clarity." Hyperion closed his fingers around the flower, its petals cool against his skin. Then, as the last trace of sunlight slipped away, he left the garden, carrying both the warmth of day and the calm of dreams within him. Time moved differently now, not as a rushing river, but as a gentle tide, pulling slowly at the edges of an era. The world was changing, though not with the fury of storms or the clash of battle. Instead, it was a quiet turning, like the last rays of sunlight softening before the coming night. Hyperion stood upon a high ridge, watching the sky shift from gold to deepening rose. His heart was heavy, yet serene, for he understood that nothing in the endless dance of creation was meant to remain unchanged. The Titans, ancient and powerful, had held the world in their hands for countless ages. Their strength was immense, their presence eternal. Yet even they must yield to the rhythm of time. The Olympians were rising, younger gods, whose light was different, sharper, faster, more restless. They would shape the future in ways the Titans never could, bringing new stories, new rhythms, new kinds of balance. But Hyperion was not afraid. He saw in their coming not an end, but a transformation. His own light, carried in the warmth of dawn and the wisdom of the sun, would live on through his children, and in the quiet moments between day and night. He thought of the horizon where he and Hypnos had met, that fragile line where light and sleep intertwined. It was there, he knew, that the true balance of the world would be kept. As the stars began to twinkle faintly overhead, Hyperion closed his eyes and breathed deeply. The world was moving forward, and he too would move with it. A steady, golden thread woven into the fabric of eternity. The age of Titans was drawing to a close, but the light they had kindled would never fade. Long after the Titans' footsteps had faded, like whispers on the wind, their light endured, soft, steady, and unseen, yet deeply felt. Hyperion's glow was no longer tied to any one place or moment. Instead, it flowed gently through the world, like an endless river of warmth and quiet wisdom, touching everything with subtle grace. Every dawn, when the sky shifted slowly from shadow to pale rose, his presence stirred in the air. The light began its slow journey across the horizon, not in harsh bursts, but as a tender caress. It slipped through leaves dusted with morning dew, gilded the tips of distant mountains, and traced silver paths along calm lakes. Mortals, though they did not know the ancient god's name, would feel this light's gentle embrace. They sensed it as a hush settling on a restless mind, a pause where the thoughts quieted and clarity gently bloomed. Sometimes it came as sudden inspiration, an idea like a small flame catching in the dark, or as calm acceptance, like the deep peace found in watching the sun's slow rise. In all these moments, Hyperion's light was there, woven invisibly into the very fabric of day. This light was patient and enduring, never hurried or harsh. It taught that wisdom grows quietly, like a seed nestled beneath the soil, unfolding slowly toward the sun. It was a glow that welcomed the unsteady steps of those learning, the tired minds seeking rest, and the curious hearts longing for understanding. At times, when the world was especially still, and the air hung heavy with the scent of blooming flowers or fresh rain, the glow seemed to deepen, as if the Titan himself breathed through the morning mist. It was in the laughter shared beneath ancient trees, in the gentle touch of a hand given without words, and in the silent moments when one simply sat and watched the sky change its colors. Here, the eternal light whispered its most tender truths, that even the smallest spark can illuminate the darkest night, and that every beginning carries the promise of growth. When twilight gathered at the edges of the day, and the stars began to twinkle in the deepening blue, Hyperion's glow folded seamlessly into the soft silver of the moonlight. It mingled with dreams and the quiet power of sleep, a constant companion to Hypnos, the god of rest and dreams. Together, their gifts formed an unending circle, light to guide the waking mind, shadow to nurture the dreaming soul. Through this eternal dance of day and night, knowledge and mystery, illumination and rest, Hyperion's presence remained a steady thread woven through the ages. Though unseen, his light touched every life, every moment of quiet wonder, and every breath of peaceful reflection. And so, as the world turns gently beneath the stars, the eternal glow lingers, a promise that light, like wisdom, is never truly lost. It waits patiently in every dawn, every thoughtful pause, and every instant when the world chooses to listen. The light of Hyperion continued to touch the world, not in grand displays, but in the quiet, ordinary moments where life gently unfolds. In the earliest hours of morning, when the sky blushed with the first pale pinks and golds, the glow of Hyperion whispered softly across fields and villages alike. It slipped through cracks in wooden shutters, casting slender beams that warmed cold stone floors. It draped itself over the shoulders of those who rose before the sun, filling their breath with calm and their hearts with steady hope. Travelers waking from long journeys found comfort in that gentle light, an unseen companion guiding their steps toward new horizons. Farmers tending to newborn crops felt the promise of growth in the soft warmth that touched their hands, coaxing fragile shoots toward the sky. Artists and thinkers, wrapped in solitude, caught its spark in moments of sudden clarity. The quiet flame of inspiration flickering awake in their minds. This light, though subtle, carried with it a gift far beyond mere illumination. It was the gift of understanding, the deep, patient knowing that growth takes time, that questions often lead to answers, and that sometimes the most profound wisdom lies in silence and observation. Hyperion's legacy was not only in the brightness of day, but in the balance it brought to all things. It was in the way morning light slowly softened shadows rather than banishing them abruptly, reminding mortals that clarity need not come with harshness. It was in the gentle progression from dawn to midday to dusk, each moment holding its own quiet beauty and purpose. Those who felt this light often found themselves moved to kindness without knowing why. A stranger helped with a heavy load. A difficult word was softened by patience. A restless mind finally found stillness. Unseen and unspoken, Hyperion's presence lived in the space between actions, an invisible thread weaving harmony through the tapestry of mortal lives. Even in the deepest night, when darkness seemed to hold sway, his light remained. It was carried in the moon's silver glow, in the twinkling of distant stars, and in the soft promise that after rest would come renewal. And so, through countless generations, Hyperion's eternal glow endured, not as a distant god in forgotten myth, but as the warm, steady light within the heart of the world itself. The eternal glow of Hyperion did not only live in grand dawns or distant skies. It found its way into the smallest, quietest corners of the world. In the soft breathing of a village wrapped in hills, beneath skies that carried the fading stars, there was a single soul touched by both light and shadow. A dreamer. As night deepened, dreamer slipped gently from the waking world into a realm both tender and mysterious. It was a place where the garden of Hypnos bloomed, fields of silver-edged poppies swaying beneath a sky brushed with twilight's soft colors. The air here was thick with calm, a balm to any restless heart. Yet, even in this realm of dreams, Hyperion's light lingered, not as a harsh blaze, but a warm thread weaving softly through the darkness. It was the gentle glow that guided wandering thoughts, the quiet wisdom that turns confusion into clarity. In that dream, the dreamer felt the harmony of night and day, sleep and wakefulness, shadow and light. They understood, without needing words, that both were needed, two sides of the same coin. For without darkness, light loses its meaning. Without rest, the mind forgets how to find peace. When the first hints of dawn touched the horizon, the dreamer stirred, carrying with them the calm warmth of that light, an invisible gift passed down through ages. It was the promise of balance, the whisper that no matter how deep the night, morning would always come. And so, the eternal dance continued, beyond gods and mortals alike. Hypnos tending dreams, Hyperion lighting the dawn, each holding the world gently between light and shadow, between waking and sleep. The story of Hyperion and Hypnos is more than a myth. It is a reminder of the essential balance woven into the fabric of existence. Light and darkness, wakefulness and sleep, wisdom and dreams. Each depend on the other, forming a cycle that sustains the world and all who live within it. Hyperion's light is not simply brightness. It is the patient unfolding of understanding. It is a warmth that invites growth, a clarity that does not rush, but reveals in time. This light touches all things softly, from the first blush of dawn to the gentle glow carried quietly into the lives of mortals, guiding without overwhelming, illuminating without harshness. Hypnos's realm of sleep complements this light with stillness and renewal. In rest, the mind gathers the fragments of experience and weaves them into dreams, allowing the unknown to mingle with memory and hope. It is in the meeting of light and sleep the world finds harmony, where thought yields to reflection and action gives way to rest. The balance they embody extends beyond gods and mortals. It is found in the steady rhythm, day and night, in the quiet moments between breath and silence, and in the understanding that every ending is also a beginning. Together, light and rest nurture wisdom, not as a destination, but as a journey that calls for patience, acceptance, and the gentle knowing that clarity often emerges in the spaces between effort and ease. In embracing this balance, we connect to something timeless, an eternal dance that sustains all life and offers peace amid change. The light that guides and the rest that restores are forever intertwined, and in their union lies the quiet strength to move forward with grace. And I hope you enjoyed tonight's journey, and it has brought you a night of peaceful, restful sleep. Please join me again tomorrow night for another sleep story. Until then, sweet dreams.